What's up guys, Ghost here, back with another hardware review, and today we're going to be getting a little bit into surround and situational sound in Battlefield 3 and indeed Battlefield 4, and I'm going to be taking a look at the Sennheiser PC 360 game headset coupled with an Asus Xonar soundcard. Now, when I started thinking about upgrading my sound setup for Battlefield 3, I was a little bit skeptical and I sort of thought, how much can this really help me? But it helps so much, and I think it's greatly underestimated. You know, people will go and get a good graphics card so they can display the game at a high graphical setting, and they'll want it running at 120 FPS, and they'll have, you know, a monitor that can display 1920 by 1080p, and they'll put the FOV slider all the way up to the top notch, and they'll sort of make the visual aspect of the game as good as they possibly can. And when people come to upgrade their systems, that's what most people think of, right? But few people actually think to bother upgrading their headphones or their sound card and improving their situational sound awareness for the game. So if you're looking to upgrade your surround sound capabilities and you're currently using just Realtek onboard audio and you've got, say, a mediocre pair of headphones, the first thing that I would upgrade is actually your sound card, and the reason being is because that is the cheap option. You can get good options from Creative. Personally, I have an Asus Xonar DGX. There's also the DG, which is just the PCI version of the DGX. Both of those cards go extremely cheap. You can get them for around $25 on Amazon, and I'm sure they can be found even cheaper, probably in local computer stores. There's also the Asus Xonar Essence and the Phobos or Phoebus. These cards are a little bit more on the expensive side of things, and I'm not so sure what the technical advantages are they have over the DG and the DGX, but the DGX does the trick for me. It gives me great surround sound, so I don't really see any need to upgrade to something more expensive. Now, what these sound cards will essentially do is it will virtualize surround sound audio in your headphones. So you can set it to 7.1 surround sound audio, jump in Battlefield 3, set the settings there to home cinema, and then you will be able to have surround sound. And the pair of headphones I was using before were just some old Plantronics, so they weren't that bad, but they certainly weren't great. They were nothing expensive, but even then I could really hear the difference when I picked up that sound card. You know, the sound of the RPG whizzing past your head, and you hear which side, and you hear it sort of going from the front to the back as it goes past you. There's just really quite nothing like it, and for $25, it's really an upgrade that everyone can afford to make, and I would really recommend it. Now, whilst this sound card will give you decent positional audio, it's only going to be as good as your headphones, and that is where the PC 360s from Sennheiser come in. Now, I'm aware, of course, that a lot of you guys play on console, and as such can't make use of any kind of a sound card, but what you can do is buy a mix amp. I know that Astro makes one, other companies make them as well, and you can then just hook that up and plug any headphone that you wish into it, and that will sort of give you this virtualized surround sound, because I see a lot of people that will buy the Sennheiser 360, plug that straight in and use it with a console, and then they'll sort of say, oh well, it sucks, it doesn't give me great positional audio. Well, if you hook it first up to a mix amp, it definitely will. Now, this thing is so lightweight. I think in total it weighs about 300 grams. So going from my old clunky Plantronics headset to this one was like day and night. Now, talk about comfort. These things are so comfortable. They have these sort of lovely velvety material on the ear cups themselves that feel really nice on your head. The ear cups are really huge, so they encompass your entire ear, and they're not sort of gonna crush your earlobe or bend your ear in any way, and you can wear them literally for hours on end without getting any kind of headache. There's a volume knob control on the right ear cup, and it's sort of like this little disc that you turn with your finger, and that's definitely a nice touch there. It's really annoying to have the volume control on the cable itself because it's sort of dangling down by your legs. You then have to sort of pull the cable up like it's a rope, find the volume control to turn it down, so it's really handy to just have that on the ear cup itself. You always know where it is. The only gripe I have with it is that if you turn it to the sort of minimum position and you turn the sound all the way down, it won't actually mute the sound completely. It will just turn it down to a quieter volume level. Now, the cable itself is probably around 2 meters long, so if you don't have front panel audio, don't worry, it's definitely going to be able to get round to the back of your computer. It's also pretty robust, so for somebody like me who has a couple of kids, and I even had an issue once with a rabbit, my rabbit actually chewed through the cable on my headset, that's definitely something that I look for. Now this is indeed a headset, so it does have a microphone on the side of it here. Not that I actually bought it for that at all. I actually have a much higher quality microphone, so I have no need for it, but I have tested it out and it is pretty decent. So if you're just looking to make Skype calls or talk to people on TeamSpeak or Mumble or whatever, it's definitely good for that. One nice feature is that when you flip the mic up, it automatically mutes, so you don't have to again search on the cable for a mute button. You just flip the mic up and you can go and talk to whoever you want while the mic is muted, flip it down and you're unmuted. Now one of the reasons that I picked this headset specifically is because it has an open ear design, and my last headset was closed and it just really locked in all the heat. After a couple of hours of gaming I would have this huge headache, I would lose my concentration and I would simply have to stop. With this open ear design I'm able to keep gaming for hours on end in complete comfort, and I just barely even notice that they're there at all. Aside from comfort and practicality, the number one reason I bought these headphones is down to the soundscape. Now if you don't understand really what soundscape is, it's essentially the ability of the headphones to create a sensation of experiencing a particular acoustic environment. So basically sounds are made at different distances and as such they sound differently, and that's just the ability of how well the headphones can simulate that, and these headphones do that extremely well. So in the case of Battlefield 3, that's really important for footsteps, the distance of them, the direction, and the same with other things like gunshots and a tank rumbling past, you name it. And linked together with the sound card, that means that it can give you awesome positional audio and you can really gauge the distance. If you hear somebody's footsteps, you know the exact distance, you know how far they are, you know how fast you have to turn around and take them down before they get to you. You can tell if they're running towards you or if they're running away from you. It really is that accurate, and until you sort of get a pair for yourself and try them out, it's really difficult to explain. The other reason I got them is that they're not that bassy. Now in Battlefield 3, there are a lot of bassy noises, tanks rumbling past, explosions, gunshots, all of these sounds have a big bassy impact, and whilst bass is very good for a sort of overall cinematic experience, it's not that good for picking out some of the finer points in the game. If you want to hear somebody firing a weapon that's silenced, or you want to hear somebody's footsteps, and those sorts of things, you need to have mids, and you really want to tone down the bass a little bit. And despite the fact that these headphones have good mids and pretty low on the bass, I actually use the Equalizer within my soundcard software to turn up the mids a little bit more, and I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. So with the headphones and the sound card covered, let's go a little bit more in depth into how we can use the software to sort of configure our sound card to give us the best surround sound experience possible. Now, as you can see in the background, the footage here is mainly from Team Deathmatch, and I'm playing on a relatively small server size, and the reason for that is that I'm trying to sort of set up the headphones, get the best optimal settings that I can for footsteps and things like that. So I don't really want to be on a big 64-man server with tanks and jets flying overhead and helicopters and explosions going off everywhere, because those sounds will sort of mask any footsteps that I can potentially hear. So that's what I would recommend doing if you're trying to sort of configure your sound as well as you possibly can. Another good trick that I used is just to go in an empty server, find something that is constantly making a sound, like maybe it's a fan turning around or a fountain on Back to Karkand or something that is constantly producing sound, and there's nobody else in the server, so they're not going to be polluting that sound signal. And then just turn around. And what I did is I sort of closed my eyes, turned to a certain degree. I imagined in my head from the sound that I was hearing where that fountain or that fan was in comparison to what I was hearing, and when I opened my eyes, if where my soldier was looking matched up for that, then I know that that's then how accurate those settings are for me, and some settings turned out to be not quite as accurate as others. Now, before you get started messing around with your sound card software, you want to do two things. First of all, go into Battlefield 3, go into your audio options and set the sound mode to home cinema. You also want to turn off enhanced stereo, I think it's called. That will just mess up with your sound card software. You want to have that off. That's only really something that you want to have on if you have no special sound card. Secondly, you want to go into Windows, right click on your playback, find either your speakers or your headphone that you're using, and configure that and set it up as 7.1 surround sound audio instead of just stereo. So here you can see my settings for the software that I have, and if you have any kind of Asus Xonar sound card, then the interface should look pretty familiar. So audio channels, 8 channels, any game that can support 7.1 surround sound, you should be setting that to 8 channels. Sample rate, 48 kHz. Now you may say, why not put that up to 96? And the reason behind that is that Battlefield 3's sound is only rendered at 48 kHz. So if I were to put that up to 96, it would have to up-sample the sound, and it could actually lose some quality in doing so. Analog out, that is just, for me, front panel headphone. For you, it may be just headphone if you have it plugged into the sound card directly. And then I turn on Dolby Headphone down at the bottom there, and I have it set to DH2. I also click on the little hammer icon there next to the analog out window, and I set it to Pro Gaming mode. So those are the settings I found optimal for me. I have experimented around with a lot of different things. I have tried turning on hi-fi down in the bottom right there on, and turning Dolby Headphone off, and that was pretty good. Things seemed very crisp and clear, but I found that overall I could hear footsteps better, quicker and easier when I had Dolby Headphone on and hi-fi off. GX, I always keep that off. That seems something that most of the people that I found on the internet, they also agreed to keep that off. Smart volume off. And Dolby Headphone, I set it to DH2. That seems to give the best representation of distance. Now you can, if you wish, click the little 7.1 virtual speaker shifter button, and you can move the speakers around. You can make them so they feel closer to what you're hearing, also they feel further away, and I thought maybe making those closer might help me hear footsteps sooner, but all it did was give me an unrealistic representation of the distance for what I was hearing, so I would recommend keeping that just turned off. So here you can see the equalizer. As you can see, I've messed around with it a little bit. If you use it on the default settings, everything is just completely level, but as you can see, I've turned down the bass a little bit, turned up the mids, turned up some of the highs there, and you can sort of experiment around with that yourself if you want, or you can just copy what I've done. Either way, it should give you some pretty good results. So while the sound card is fairly cheap, unfortunately the headphones are not quite so cheap. They will cost you around $160 to $70, or in England we get screwed even more, around £150. So they're definitely not some of the cheapest headphones out there, but you certainly get what you pay for. Now there are other headsets out there that are pretty decent for surround sound. There are plenty of gaming headsets that are marketed towards gamers, from Corsair, they have a Vengeance, there's Logitech ones, but they all have built-in 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound, and while that's decent, I would urge you to go with a good pair of headphones and a headphone amp like the Asus Xonar. It just gives you overall better surround sound and situational sound quality. And if you don't want to take my word for it, then go and have a search around the internet to get some reviews of whether it's better to go for a good pair of headphones from a company like Sennheiser and a headphone amp, or whether it's better to go for like a gaming headset with a built-in amp. And you'll probably find most people say that the headphone and sound card combo is better. Now I know that a lot of people will go for the built-in surround sound headsets because they play on console, but you can always, as I mentioned before, get a mix amp. It will mean forking out a little bit of extra money, but if you're really looking for top-notch sound quality, then it will be well worth it. However, there are other headphones out there who do just as well as these PC360s, namely the Audio-Technica AD700s or AD700Xs. They're great. I know Level Cap uses them, so does Rival X Factor, and from what I've heard from them, they're absolutely amazing for soundscape and sort of surround sound. And I can't really comment myself because I've never used them, so I don't have any experience with them, but go and check out forums and stuff. If you have access to them, maybe you can go and pick up a pair of those. I'm sure they're just as good as the PC360s. So I hope you enjoyed this little review, guys. Whether you're looking to get a sound card, a pair of headphones, a headset, or even just to set up your settings for your sound card, hopefully this video has been of some assistance, and I'm pretty sure that my rig currently is going to be good to go for Battlefield 4. From the footage that I watched of it, I can sort of hear the surround sound elements of the game, and it sounds really, really good. It sounds even better than the sound engine in Battlefield 3, and that sound engine won plenty of awards, and it was critically acclaimed, so I expect nothing less from Battlefield 4. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like down below, subscribe for more of the same, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.